On today's episode of the Locked On Knicks podcast, Tyler Kolek bounces back in a big way, and the Knicks might just have something in Mohamed Diawara.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Gavin Schall. I'm the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. I'm also a credentialed media member that's been covering the New York Knicks for nearly a decade now here at Locked On Knicks. That's right. This is Locked On Knicks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Your daily podcast on the New York Knicks, giving the most detailed insight on your favorite team at least 5 days a week. So be sure to join thousands of other Knicks fans in becoming an everydayer and subscribing on both YouTube and your favorite podcast platform for the best insight on your favorite team every single day. On today's show, we are talking a 97-93 Summer League victory over the Brooklyn Nets. The New York Knicks get on the board in Summer League. I know you all care so much about the wins and losses. Maybe. I genuinely don't know. I think there are people out there who do care about wins and losses in Summer League. Probably more important than the wins and losses are the individual performances. We're going to talk Tyler Kolek bouncing back, particularly in the first half, in a major way. The shot finally falling. We're going to talk about Mohamed Diawara continuing to flash on both ends of the floor. Ariel Hukporti, some more impressive moments from him defensively. Marjon Beauchamp finally had a decent game, particularly in the second half. We're going to get into all of it on today's episode of the Locked On Knicks podcast. But we have to start with Tyler Kolek. On my last episode I did was all about ripping Tyler Kolek because he was... I hesitate to use this word, but I'm going to say it. I think inexcusably bad in the first two games, and I know there was a lot of context to that. I said as much on the first two podcasts that it is unwise to overreact to any two games of basketball from any player, and yet he looked so bad in those first two games. You kind of came away thinking like, did this guy regress? Is he actually an NBA player, despite the fact that we saw him have success in the NBA? And if you had those fears, I don't know if this game went all the way towards alleviating it, because as we talked about, the whole thing with Kolek is there is a very thin window for him to have success on a team that already has Jalen Brunson on it. And he has to be really great at the stuff he is supposed to be great at. And he has to become average to good at the areas that are supposed weaknesses for him. And just like you don't overreact to two games, you don't want to overreact to one game. And yet he was obviously just spectacular in the first half of this one. 23-point first half. All 5 of his threes come in the first half of this game. Just looked like a completely different player, not only in the sense that the shots were going in, but from a confidence perspective offensively and just kind of coming out and going for it. Before any of that, he early in this game, he draws his 4th offensive foul of Summer League. Clearly, that is an area where he has learned all the tricks of the trade from Jalen Brunson. Totally understands how to sell an offensive foul on a slightly moving screen. Very good at taking a dive. It is a useful NBA skill for a guy who otherwise is not close to being an NBA caliber defender. Even though I want to note in Summer League, this was probably his worst game one-on-one from what I noticed, but he's generally held his own on that end of the floor, which is a really encouraging sign. His very first 3 of the game was halfway down and then bounced up and looked like it was going to miss, which he's had a number of through 2 games, and then ultimately drops in. It felt like that gave him a little confidence boost, got him going a little bit. The other element that was really working for Kolek in this one was the deceleration. He had a 1-foot Dirk fade where he basically just stopped mid-drive on Grant Nelson and just balanced on his back foot. You'll typically see people, at least as far as I've noticed, like lean on that on that front foot for that shot. He balanced off his back foot, faded back, drained it. That was pretty sick. And then literally the next play, like steal, hit ahead to Beauchamp for a layup. He had, I believe, 4 steals in this one. I'm going to double check that. He was credited with 4 steals in this game. Really solid playmaking game defensively, even if he was getting a couple of times just toasted by Ben Suraf and Nolan Traore of the Brooklyn Nets. And then the three start falling. Has a little hezzy to get the big to bail, like chasing the roller. And then TJ Bamba, former Washington State, Villanova legend, steps up, puts a three in his eye. Nasty. That's exciting. Then another steal, great anticipation, picking off a pass. And then he just had this ridiculous, 1 foot slow step that got Dre Davis to fly by as he put in the layup. You'll see, it's also called a Pinoy step. You will see NBA players pull that out in transition. This was maybe just because it was summer league and the defender sold it a little more. That was one of the harder stops and pump fakes and just balances on 1 foot. I remember shout out to my friend Josh, former Locked On Nets co-host. When we would play pickup basketball with him, he's the only guy I ever saw that would pump fake off 1 foot hard, and people would consistently bite on it. Tyler Kolek, he really, really sold it. It was a fun move. Ends up with a 14-point first quarter, 2 assists, 2 steals, 4-6 shooting. Great start for him. And then picks up exactly where he left off at the start of the third. And this is something I remember seeing from Tyler Kolek in Summer League last year, where he will essentially set up his own three. So he created advantage off a push, had a cross-court skip pass to the corner. I think it might have been to Diawara. I can't quite remember, but there was an extra to Beauchamp on the right wing. Beauchamp drives the closeout. Kolek relocates off his cross-court skip and drains a corner three. Tom Crean, who was on this game with Drew Carter, both of them were fantastic. Crean just light years ahead of any other color analyst I've heard cover the Knicks this summer league. He pointed out that Kolek, he thought the difference in this one from him was a lot of it was in his shot prep, and that Kolek was getting low. He was ready on the catch. He was on balance. He had his right foot, which he thought sometimes when a player is missing a lot and they are struggling and they're trying to find a rhythm, you will see them start to fade on their shots. I know I do it playing basketball. I'm sure a lot of you guys do it playing basketball where you're just trying to catch a rhythm and you're almost trying to skip a step, because that is the kind of shot you will take when you are taking a heat check or you're red hot and you're trying to find that feeling. But generally, to get back on track, you want to be on balance, right? You want to be on the balls of your feet. And that is exactly what Kolek started doing. And Tom Crean thinks in general, which is interesting, it's not something I noticed. It's not something I really was looking for, honestly, because Kolek was missing everything. He feels like Kolek's form has improved from last year. He said his release is a little bit higher. Thought his follow-through is cleaner. So that is all encouraging, because if Tyler Kolek comes out, that 3-point shot, you say it about so many of these guys, but for Kolek in particular, I think it is absolutely a swing skill in his game. If he cannot take and make not only open catch and shoot threes, which have not been going down this summer league, and at times we're not going down in the regular season for the New York Knicks. If he can't take and make those one dribble off a pick and roll, exactly the one I mentioned that he hit in Bamba's eye, those types of threes with an NBA wing closing in on him at times, it is going to be tricky for him to be enough of a scoring threat to actually get access to his all-world passing in the half court. The three is the skill that everything else can cascade down from, because then he can attack closeouts. It gives him a chance to get into that decel game and that craft around the basket. But if not, he is purely someone who is a high-level offensive threat in transition. And I think against NBA level defenses in the pick and roll, it's going to be hard for him to score if teams don't treat him at the very least a good shooter. And obviously it would go a long way if he became a great shooter. That is a long way out, but this game was really encouraging. And then from there, he just went into full heat check mode. He used a great screen from Hukporti at midcourt, and then just put a high arcing golden parabola of a three in Drew Timmy's eye. He was absolutely feeling it at that point. 20 points with 5 minutes left in the first half. And then you go back to the pick and roll craft. Great screen flip from James Nagy. It was perfectly timed, as it was Dre Davis was the defender for Brooklyn. He was coming around the screen. Nagy and Kolek, both great sense of that. Nagy flips it, rolls to the rim, and exactly at that moment, you see Kolek turn the corner, draw a couple of defenders, and hit Diawara cutting from the corner for a perfectly timed underhand lob, all in one motion. That was beautiful. It's the type of pass I want to see. Jalen Brunson having his bag next year. And it would be really cool if we occasionally got one of Wingstop leaking in from the corner. It was really nice. Another steal, third of the first half, if you're counting on Grant Nelson, just standing him up. Grant Nelson is like 6'10", so that was really impressive defense from Tyler Kolek. And then the shot of the game for him, the catch and shoot, 26-foot heat check. I wanted a bang from Drew Carter. We didn't get it, but that was brilliant. Second half, a lot quieter. I think he was 5 for 7 or 5 for 8 from 3 in the first half. He missed his final 4 or 5 from 3, which was too bad. You'll take 5 for 12 though from distance every single time. Scoreless third quarter from him in the fourth. Had one really nice move along the sideline where he had like that nasty, like Brunson's so good at this, the half spin back to ditch his defender, sprints into the paint, draws 3 guys, hits Diawara again, cutting baseline. Clearly, that's something Mohamed Diawara is very good about timing up. Diawara blew. The pass was not perfect from Kolek, but Diawara blew what would have been like an insane one-handed dunk on the alley-oop. And then a couple possessions later, more paint touches for Kolek. Stampede drive on the catch, gets the line for free throws. That was nice. Got blitzed later in the game. Easy hit ahead to Beauchamp for a wing 3. Really great bounce back performance from Tyler Kolek. I believe at least it is. I think even if you don't make the playoffs, you get one bonus summer league game at the very least. So should get 2 more games of Tyler Kolek. I didn't mention it at the top, but no Mohamed Diawara or Kevin McCullough Jr. If you didn't watch and you're wondering why those names haven't been mentioned yet, certainly I think in a good way put the impetus on Kolek to be aggressive from the get-go. He took advantage. He was absolutely fantastic in this one. You're going to be feeling a whole lot better about him if he has 1 or 2 more of these performances before we finish up Summer League. When we come back, we're going to get into Mohamed Diawara because he continues to really, really impress me this Summer League. We're going to talk Ariel Hukporti, who, again, was very solid in limited minutes. And then we're going to get into some big club topics, including Landry Shamet and another assistant coach. Not turning down the Knicks, but being turned down by his club to interview with the Knicks. All that next here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Monarch Money. If you guys ever wished managing your money just felt a little bit easier with Monarch Money, it absolutely can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. And Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in just one place. So in addition to managing your money, you are also building wealth. I love how they help me keep track of how much I'm spending on takeout, how much I'm spending on subscriptions. The answer, way too much. That added up to more than I typically expect. I love that it helps me manage my finances with my girlfriend. It is something that is very easy. Anyone in a relationship, anyone in a serious relationship knows that is something that is very, very easy to get you into a lot of fights. Monarch Money just makes it completely thoughtless. And I want to start saving long-term, potentially buy my own apartment, buy my own house down the road. Monarch Money certainly helps with that. So you can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. It's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. All right, what's up, guys? We're back here on Locked On Knicks. We talked through Tyler Kolek. Now we are going to talk through Mohamed Diawara because I thought he was awesome in this one. 26 minutes, 7 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, 1 steal. Classic case of the stats not necessarily telling you everything you need to know. My takeaway from Mohamed Diawara in Summer League so far is that he is in no world ready for NBA minutes. I mean, maybe sure 4 or 5 at the end of the game, like what they were giving the rookies for the bulk of last year. That's totally fine in a blowout, but he's not an NBA ready rotation player yet. There is a long way to go in a lot of different areas for him. And yet he's a project. He's a promising project. He is one worth investing in for the New York Knicks. The shot is not where you want it to be. In fact, I forgot to pull up his box scores. I'm going to try to do it on the fly right now. I don't think he has made a 3 yet this Summer League. Has not really shot the ball particularly well. We mentioned when we were watching his tape in Europe, like the shot looks soft, and I haven't really seen anything to dissuade me of that in summer league. Sorry, he has made one. He is 1 for 8 so far from distance in summer league. His like shot setup is pretty slow. His release is slow. He definitely has, just in general, so speaking as a taller guy, maybe not quite that tall, but a taller guy who has similar issues. He has some real like postural issues and some gait issues when he's running. I think all of that is stuff like the shot will get cleaned up with an NBA shot doctor. The gait and physio side of it will get cleaned up with the Knicks, who have I think just won an award led by Casey Smith for having the best training staff in the NBA. I think all of that is very fixable with like a year or two behind the scenes. What you can't teach with Mohamed Diawara, as we've mentioned a number of times, is his freakish length, right? 9'2" standing reach. So what is it? 7'8" wingspan for him. He is a absolute freak of nature. And you see it in some of the playmaking defensively. The Knicks were running a zone press at one point in this game, and he pressures on the right side of the court. And then the call came in from the sideline. All right, go back to man. Rotates back to his guy who's about to get the basketball, flies in out of nowhere, tips it out of the air, doesn't get to the ball, but you just see flashes of like, again, that OG Anunoby freak stuff where it's like, all right, you, even an NBA player, should not be able to get to that pass. And then offensively, or we can finish talking about his defense first. He had another play where he switched off Grant Nelson, seeing Ben Suraf just wide open on a cut, and ended up just completely altering his layup for a bad miss. That was really awesome. On the offensive end of the floor, he had another one where he absolutely toasted a closeout with this lightning quick jab, and then had it just a nice up and under layup on Drew Timme. Like there's just a little more craft there in terms of the ability to go to a midair adjustment, in terms of the ability to attack a closeout for a guy who seemingly got very, very little time on the ball for his international club. Like, he is surprisingly advanced offensively. Live dribble skip to the opposite corner at one point, which, like, it wasn't the smoothest, not the most pace on the ball at the NBA level, particularly against a good defense. Maybe that's picked off and goes the other way. But the fact that at a young age, with his, again, relative level of inexperience at this level, playing as a ball handler, that he's making that pass, like, that's a great sign that he's recognizing that. That's a great sign that he's inclined to pass the ball like that. Early fourth quarter, I think maybe my favorite play of Summer League for him so far. He had a switch with Nolan Traore, who's the Nets point guard pick, I think also out of France. And he totally takes advantage of it. Bully ball, moves Traore, baits former Seton Hall grade, shout out tri-state area, Tyrese Samuel to step up, and then he jumps and just like loops a pass around Samuel between him and Traore to Najee, who did a great job relocating on the play under the basket for an and one layup. That was just like brilliant manipulation, anticipation, great drop off from him. And then Najee ends up missing the free throw. He dives, he gets it back, and then fought in traffic to win another possession off another miss after he got the offensive rebound, and then ends up ending that possession by draining a face-up short mid-range shot. So he just does everything on one possession. The pull-up three, which he tried late in the fourth quarter, again, that is something that he is going to need thousands and thousands and thousands of reps on. It looks really, really awkward for an NBA type wing. It's Summer League, though. This is the time to stretch your wings. This is the time to try stuff like that. I don't know if that's something he's ever going to have in his bag at an NBA level, because he just looks so far off in terms of just like the coordination on that shot, and also just having a shot good enough that it's worth trying that. But you take it in Summer League. His last three of the day was halfway down and out. I said it before, but his release has to get sped up. His shot prep needs some work, but this is all stuff that's doable. And I think we've gotten to a point with Mohamed Diawara where there is a solid case for the Knicks to spend their last two-way slot on him, because there is a lot of promise there. Ariel Hukporti, another really good defensive showing from him. I did not realize watching live that he only played 14 minutes in this one, but I thought he was fantastic and stood out in those 14 minutes. The ESPN box score credited him is only having one block. I counted at least 2, so that is surprising, but just more of the same stuff from him. The verticality is exceptional. He's like, I know Alex made the comp the other day, and it's an easy comp as they're both German centers, but there's a lot of Isaiah Hartenstein in his game on both ends of the floor. Verticality is really good. Might even be like a touch more. I don't want to say he's more athletic than Isaiah, because Isaiah is a top 10 to 12 center on planet Earth, but he's certainly in the same category. Like verticality, great at the rim, forced priority to miss a layup. I'm constantly watching what Ariel Hukporti does in the short roll game. Right now, I think he's almost a little too passive at times and almost a little too inclined to pass, which is generally something I like in a big, and I love his vision. And I love how much he almost likes playing as a big guard. But it was his first time on a short roll in this game. He turned it over on a play. He probably should have attacked the rim and just kind of defaulted to throwing a bounce pass. But literally the next time down, he kind of immediately self-corrected and said, all right, I was a little too passive there. And he faked the dribble handoff, and then he went right through Drew Timmy's chest for a layup, which was just an awesome play. Traveled on a later short roll where, again, he hesitated for a sec. And Tom Crean was saying this on the broadcast, like, again, great job by Crean. He has that push shot, right? And that should, to me, unless someone is cutting for a lob, that should be his default option. Should be take one dribble, get to that push shot. He's good enough in it. I'm comfortable with him taking that as like a pretty good way to end a possession for your offense. Or if they give you a lot of room and they're kind of daring you to take that, you can always do what Giannis does and eat up that space, right? Get into someone's chest exactly like he did with Timmy, get to the rim and finish there. On the other end of the floor, a couple of defensive highlights, just perfectly timed lefty block on a runner on one end, and then comes down 1-2 Euro gather and flipping on the other. Really good footwork, really good touch. You just see the full package on that sequence. And then another short roll. He wanted to get it to Diawara on the cut. It was covered. So he just swings it to Beauchamp for a left wing 3 that got Beauchamp going, as he had a much better second half than a first half. It's a good decision. You want the processing to be a little bit faster, but he's in a really good spot right now. And then had another one where he made a quicker decision, hit Watson, cutting for a layup. So that was encouraging. And then a couple more defensive highlights. Timmy at one point beat him on a spin, was held up by one of the guards for the Knicks, rotating over. I think it was Devon Grant. And Hukporti just had this great recovery to get back and just this mean swap from behind on Drew Timmy. Did the same thing without any help on Ben Saraf, who beat him on a cross, and then Hukporti recovers to just swat him at the rim into next year. He is a major shot blocking talent, Ariel Hukporti. Like he had moments last year. The summer league is kind of making me reevaluate what I think about his ceiling defensively. Look, obviously it's going to look much different against NBA level athletes, but he really has something in terms of his timing, in terms of his hands, and his feet to just recover. Like I said it a bunch. I will reiterate it again. He is going to give the Knicks some optionality with Mitchell Robinson. I am never going to advocate for the Knicks to move on from Mitchell Robinson, because I love him and I think he has a unique skill set. But Ariel Hukporti, similar to Isaiah Hartenstein, he might not have the extremely defined strengths of Mitch, where Mitch is just like maybe the best rebounder on planet Earth and is a top, like, I don't know, 6 or 7 drop defender on planet Earth. And Hukporti has a ways to go before you put him quite in that category. And yet, like, he gives you a little more versatility than a Mitchell Robinson does. And that can offset the fact that he might not be super elite in any area the same way Mitch is. I think he, again, is going to have an 8-year career, or at least in the NBA. I hope the bulk of it is on the Knicks. When we come back, some final notes on the big club coming up next on Locked On Knicks. All right, what's up, guys? Thank you, as always, for making Locked On Knicks your first listen of this Wednesday morning. Be sure to tune in to Locked On NBA. We are recapping every single summer league game, every single night over on Locked On NBA. So be sure to check that out. Stories from around the NBA. If and when LeBron James gets traded, you will hear it on Locked On NBA. Well, you might not hear it from Locked On NBA. We hope you go to Locked On NBA for your analysis first. All right. Landry Shamet, according to an episode of the Putback from the great Ian Begley, He was asked about New York's final vet min spot, and he mentioned that the Knicks have been in contact with Ben Simmons as recently as last week. And then he followed that up by saying that Landry Shamet is interested in returning to New York, and New York is considering bringing Shamet back. We will see what the Knicks ultimately do with that spot. I said it already. If you weren't going to get the highest end, like buyout type guy and a Malcolm Brogdon or a Marcus Smart, and maybe even if those guys were on the table, I would be perfectly content with Landry Shamet. He is the best shooter on the market for the New York Knicks, even with adding Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele, guys who elevate your shooting off the bench. I am a big advocate of the idea you can never have enough shooting. I am a big believer in what we saw defensively from Landry Shamet in the playoffs, even though that was wholly unprecedented from Landry Shamet, who in the past was somewhat of a defensive liability in the playoffs. I think he might have found something in his game. I am frankly surprised the way GMs scour the margins and look for anyone who can like walk and chew gum in the Eastern Conference Finals. I'm surprised no one else has offered Landry Shamet like a touch more than the vet minimum. Like I think he is a borderline rotation caliber player, like at the highest levels. And yes, I do think there are certain teams like the Celtics. I think that would have been a harder series for him. There are teams that could expose him on the defensive end of the floor. But if he plays with the type of confidence and swagger that he played with on both ends, particularly offensively in the playoffs, like there's a spot for that guy. Like he's big enough and a good enough shooter that there's always going to be a spot for that guy. If he is your 10th man, I think you are in a great position. So I would have no issues bringing back Landry Shamet. Ben Simmons, we've touched on a little bit, is not someone I'm particularly excited about at this point in his career. I just think, unlike Landry Shamet, in the biggest moments, he's not someone you can really afford to have on the floor because he is such a total non-factor offensively, like in a way that puts the harshest Josh Hart critics to shame. Only other note in this one is the Knicks apparently reached out to the Mavs to try to get permission to interview Jay Triano, who's someone, if you remember when we were talking about the coaching search, is a name I brought up a lot because he was the common thread in every single coach that the Knicks were looking to interview. He was assistant for James Borrego in Charlotte, and he got a lot of credit for implementing the offense that in turn has made Borrego a hot candidate for assistant coaching jobs around the league after getting fired from Charlotte. Then he was the offense coordinator under Mike Brown when they had the best offense in basketball in 2022-23. And then he was the assistant coach under Jason Kidd, who was the Knicks' number one choice for the head coaching job. So Jay Triano, this whole time, seemingly was the man the New York Knicks were really trying to hire. And it makes sense that Leon Rose connected those dots, put together the obvious, and tried to get him after the Knicks failed to get James Borrego himself to be the offensive coordinator in New Orleans, and failed because Borrego didn't want to come. New Orleans succeeded in refusing to let him interview. Predictably, the Dallas Mavericks did the same with Jay Triano and are not giving him permission to interview with the New York Knicks. So that was reported by Steph Bondi. That is a real shame. I am personally a little bit worried that the Knicks are just going to run it back with their assistant coaches. I know Chris Persianen in the Knicks Film School newsletter today reported that Darren Erman and a couple of Rick Brunson, like a couple of the Knicks assistant coaches under Tom Thibodeau were present at Summer League. Not that I mind bringing those guys back in some capacity. I do take it. I like the idea of having some continuity. I am hoping it is not just Mike Brown with Tom Thibodeau's assistants. I think there is a desperate need for some new, fresh ideas offensively that Triano or Borrego could have helped implement. Hopefully the Knicks get creative and find someone else. There was a lot of talk of Darvin Ham coming in, which whatever I would say justified critiques you want to have of Darvin Ham as a head coach, there's a reason he was hired by the Lakers. He's universally recognized as a really high-level assistant coach, so I wouldn't mind if the Knicks ultimately brought Ham in. I don't really know why the Milwaukee Bucks would be particularly inclined towards letting him interview when he is currently, to the best of my knowledge, Doc Rivers' top assistant. But hopefully the Knicks scour far and wide, and they find a quality offensive coordinator for Mike Brown, because I think that is something that could potentially make or break his tenure. On that happy note, we will wrap up this edition of the Locked On Knicks podcast. Again, be sure to make Locked On NBA your second listen, and tune in tomorrow for Alex and I together for only the second time this week for a new edition of the Locked On Knicks podcast. And it'll be good. We'll talk to you soon.